Shortly after the death of the Lone Wizard, two heroes came to get the golden trophy. These heroes were named Async and PBBV. Both men were skilled in various weapons, but Async's special were bows, and PBBV's special were swords. Shortly after gearing up, they decided they were ready and they went into the first room. When they were there, they found the place flooded with goblins, but they had spent so much time fighting enemies and training together that they were very easy to take down. PBBV also loved to take the pots. As they were walking into the next room, more goblins appeared and they began to attack. PBBV ran ahead, killing them all with his sword, while Async stayed behind, getting him with his bow. Async saw a goblin going after PBBV and he killed it. PBBV killed a goblin and two more came. PBBV took right and then Async took left. After the last goblin, they emerged victorious. They were both excited and ready for the next room. In the next room, they saw imps, so they attacked, but the imp shot a fireball which hit PBBV. Async immediately turned around to help his friend. They had brewed a potion that even in death, if someone gave them a high five, they would come back to life. They began fighting more imps and killing more imps than they could imagine. Async picked up a pot, ran over, and hit an imp with his pot. He killed the imp and he began going up the stairs. There were two more imps which he killed pretty easily. PBBV was downstairs still getting pots. They went into a big room when suddenly imps and goblins appeared attacking them. PBBV was still coming up the stairs, so Async did a bunch of the work. Async saw a goblin in the corner of his eye and looked around to see it chasing PBBV, but PBBV killed it. Async heard some noise behind him and saw a goblin and he shot it. There was also an imp shooting at him, so he killed the imp with a pot. Then even more imps and goblins spawned. Async killed two of them. Async looked around to see two imps firing at him and his friend deceased. He rushed over to his friend, killing an imp and killing a goblin and saving him. PBBV woke up and ran and killed an imp. Async ran over to two imps that were attacking when PBBV helped him. They turned around and realized they were victorious. In the next room, they pushed down a boulder, which PBBV pushed away and ran down, and he killed all the goblins. They began running to another room when they saw imps and goblins down the slope. They ran down the slope, PBBV killing a goblin but also dying. Async almost died, killing a goblin and saving his friend. Then the two both charged over to an imp and killed him. Async had realized that there were imps where they had came from, so he ran up to deal with them. In very few shots, Async had killed the imps without any problem. He quickly ran down the slope to make sure his friend was okay. He turned the corner to see an imp shooting at him, which he killed instantly. He realized his friend had died to the imp, so he saved his friend while almost being killed by goblins. Async and PBBV continued to kill the goblins and imps and came out victorious, and they were very ready for the next room. In the next room, the floor was lava, so they had to make sure not to fall off the bridges. PBBV had ran ahead killing goblins while Async came and helped. Async saw some goblins, so he ran to kill them. He killed them all with ease. He slammed two pots together and ran over to PBBV. Imps were flying over the lava, so they had to use bows to get rid of them. While they were making a plan, the imps were shooting fireballs all at them. Async grabbed his bow and began shooting all the imps. All the imps he hit would fall and perish in the lava. Async picked up a sword and threw it at the imp, which hit it and it died. PBBV and Async split up to go kill some goblins. Async was trying to hit one with a trick shot but kept messing up. Async also had to be careful because he was getting shot at by all the imps. Async began shooting at the imps, getting them all into the lava. After the imp was killed, the Barrel Knights arrived. Async and PBBV took their swords and ran to go attack the Barrel Knights. Async did a jump attack and kept hitting him and he died. After killing the Barrel Knights, one appeared in front of Async, so Async killed it. Async noticed that PBBV was getting swarmed by goblins, so he went to go help, but PBBV handled it. Async threw his sword and pulled out his bow and began shooting at the imp. After killing that imp, he ran to go attack the last two. After missing over and over trying to get the last imp, he managed to kill it, and they were victorious. In the next room, Async chose left while PBBV chose right. Async went to go follow PBBV, but PBBV told him to go to the left. So Async went to the left to deal with the goblins and berserker goblins. Async went up the stairs, turned the corner and saw the goblins and began opening fire. He shot all of the goblins. Some goblins were trying to escape and he saw berserker goblins going after PBBV, so he ran after the berserker goblin. A goblin ran past the berserker goblin after Async, but Async killed it. Async ran over to the berserker goblin, but PBBV killed it. They began running, shooting goblins. Once they killed the goblins, they turned around to get the berserk imps and goblins. They began running away because the imps and goblins were going after them when Async was attacked from behind and died. Async was yelling at PBBV to come save him, and PBBV swooped in and saved him. Once Async was alive again, he was full of life and began shooting at all the imps and goblins. Async and PBBV ran down to attack the imps, when all of a sudden PBBV was hit by a fireball and died. Async immediately ran and saved his friend while shooting back at the imps. Async picked up a pot and slammed it over an imp's head and shot the imp dead. Another imp was still alive, so Async began to shoot it. Async was running to go kill another imp while PBBV stayed behind to kill some goblins. More imps dropped from the ceiling, which Async immediately started shooting at. In the next room, they were in a library, which Async promptly switched his weapons to a shield and sword. They began charging at berserk imps and killed them. PBBV was killed in the scuffle, but Async saved him. They killed the last imp, and suddenly 4 berserker goblins appeared from the ceiling, which they took out within 2 swipes of their swords. They killed the goblins fairly easily. Then more imps and berserker goblins and just normal goblins came out, and Async took out a whole group with 1 swipe of his sword. PBBV saw a goblin behind Async and ran over and killed the goblin for Async. After that goblin was killed, more berserk goblins came to kill them. 2 goblins were going after Async. Async killed both of them pretty quickly. That's when the Barrel Knights appeared and were going after Async and PBBV. Async took out the first one very quickly. PBBV took care of the last Barrel Knight, and then goblins and imps erupted. Async ran up some stairs and killed a goblin. Then he jumped off a bookcase and killed a berserker goblin. Async ran up the stairs again and killed an imp. He saved his friend, which they ran off to go kill more enemies. Async attacked 2 berserker goblins. Async saw that there was an imp trying to attack PBBV, so he swooped down and killed the imp. They eventually came out victorious. In the next level, Async ran up, jumped down, and attacked 2 berserker goblins with his sword. After breaking some pots, he saw the imps and he killed one and threw his sword at the other. Async jumped down and was attacked by 2 goblins and perished. While waiting there, all of a sudden PBBV came out of nowhere and saved him. After PBBV saved him, he ran into the next room with PBBV, and there were imps everywhere, and they all began to die. After going through the doorway, they saw bridges and lockers all piled up. Async was wondering why PBBV was taking so long, but PBBV was just getting pots. Async began yelling at PBBV to come over here, and PBBV came. Async ran and went on the bridge. Once on top of the bridge, a berserk imp appeared and he shot it down. After killing the imp, 2 more spawned and he slammed a big pot over one of their heads. They noticed that there was a horde of goblins coming, so they charged the goblins. Async attempted to hit a goblin but accidentally shot PBBV. Async finished off the goblins and helped his friend. They killed a goblin that was in their way, and they had to kill the goblins and imps that were behind. PBBV ran to go kill the imps and goblins while Async waited. PBBV had gone on a bridge to get pots, and then he jumped down and him and Async went into the tunnels. After going into the tunnels, shortly after they saw a Barrel Knight in the distance. They heard goblins behind them that were at the entrance of the tunnels, so PBBV went and killed them. While PBBV was killing the goblins, Async went into the tunnels to fight the Barrel Knight. Async got the Barrel Knight to charge at him, but he moved out of the way, and then he shot it, and then PBBV hit it and they killed it. After killing the Barrel Knight, they proceeded through the tunnels. Once they were out of the tunnels, they realized that there were 3 goblins there that were sleeping. While PBBV was getting pots, Async charged and started shooting at the berserk goblins with his bow. PBBV was hit by a fireball, and Async saved him while shooting at berserk imp. Async charged an imp and shot it dead. After killing the imp, a one spawned behind Async, and Async decided to kill it. Before leaving, Async decided to get the rest of the pots that were there. In the next level, it was a very open room, but it was also quite hectic. After breaking some pots, Async jumped down, grabbed a sword, and went to go attack some goblins that were on a bridge. After killing the goblins, Async ran up and threw the sword, but was attacked from behind. The goblin that killed Async ran after PBBV, but PBBV killed it and saved his friend. After saving Async, another goblin appeared, but they killed it instantly. They saw 3 more goblins going after them, but they killed all 3 of them instantly. But after the first 3, there were more goblins that just kept on coming. Async killed the berserker goblin, turned around, looked to make sure his friend was okay, and killed the last goblin, with one shot, when suddenly two imps appeared, and he grabbed his sword and threw it at the berserk one and shot the berserk one dead, and then he shot the normal one. After Async killed the imps, a bunch of berserk goblins bum rushed PvPv and he died. Async jumped off the bridge and ran and almost got cut off by another goblin but saved his friend. After PvPv was revived, he ran and killed all the goblins. After all the goblins were killed, that's when the elite Barrel Knights were here. Async ran up the bridges as fast as he could, putting his bow on his back. He grabbed a sword and shield and began rushing over to kill the Barrel Knight. Async jumped past the Barrel Knight and hit its back, and then running past it to hit its back again, and then killing it. After he had killed that Barrel Knight, a berserk imp spawned behind him, which he killed really quickly. After killing the imp, he dropped his sword and shield and began running at his friend. After he got to PvPv killed a Barrel Knight, which then spawned lots of imps, goblins, and other Barrel Knights. A goblin was going up a bridge to PvPv, but Async killed it from behind. He also shot down a berserk imp. PvPv had been killed by the red Barrel Knight, so he saved his friend and began shooting the Barrel Knight and killed it. After killing the Barrel Knight, they thought that room was over until they realized there was still one berserk imp they had to kill. PvPv charged the berserk imp and flung his sword up and killed the imp instantly, and they were victorious, and they were ready to face off against the Goblin King. Once they were in the Goblin King's room, he woke up and began shooting fireballs at them. The heroes jumped to a ledge with their bows, ready to attack him. Async and PvPv went to their spots and began shooting at the Goblin King's target, which was on his back, when suddenly Barrel Knights, imps, and goblins appeared, and they had to make sure to protect each other. Async saw he accidentally shot his friend, so he saved his friend and began shooting at the Goblin King once more. While Async was trying to shoot the Goblin King, he fell off the ledge and had to run back, but was shot by a fireball. PvPv jumped down and ran and almost got hit by the Barrel Knight's axe, but saved his friend. They each ran back up to the ledge, making sure not to get hit by any enemies. Async began shooting at the Goblin King, who was low on his health. While Async was shooting, PvPv was making sure he didn't die, but Async got hit by a fireball and PvPv was hit from behind. And yet again, more heroes have been killed.